All right, let's set up a model for our videos as well as set up the migration. So PHP artisan, make model, video with migration. And let's hop over to create videos migration and fill that in very quickly. There's a bunch of things that we'll have to fill in here. So a video is going to be related to a lecture. So we need a foreign key, foreign ID, and that is going to be lecture ID. We constrain that and we cascade on delete like we've done for other models. Next, we want to store the original video file name from the request. So here we'll just say original file name. We need a temporary disk to hold the video because when the video is uploaded, we've received all the chunks. We want to put it in a temporary space before we kickstart the job to process the video and convert it to an HLS format. So we are going to save the temporary disk that the video is stored in the video record itself. And let's just set a default value to temp. In fact, while we are here, let's quickly go over to our configuration and put in the names for all of these disks that we will be creating, because we need a couple of disks and parameters for handling our video uploads. So I'm just going to go to the site settings and let's fill this in before we come back and complete the location or the video model. And in the disks array, I'm going to specify disks for videos. And in that, we want to get the temporary disk. So we are going to create a disk for temporary disks and we're going to call that temp. And we need a disk for streaming, okay? So when we upload them to a temporary disk, that is only for us to process the videos in a job. But once we've done that and the job has been processed, we are going to move that video to the streaming disk, and that is where we will serve the video to the user in the front end. So by default, I said we're going to use DigitalOcean as our storage for streaming the videos. So we are going to name the disk DigitalOcean. And right now we are just creating names for the disks, but we haven't created a disk in the file system. We are going to get to that in a moment. Now, while we're here, let's also specify the extensions that we need to use in for serving our videos. Okay, we want to make this as easy as possible so we don't make typos when we want to actually start using extensions or disks. So we just put them in a configuration and pull them from there. So the extension for streaming videos, so the videos that we convert and they are ready to stream, they're going to be in HTTP live streaming format, which is HLS, and the extension for that is M3U8. Okay, so all the videos that we convert will be converted to H3U8 format. Then the stream MIME type, because when we start serving the videos to the front end, we need to specify what the MIME type is for that video, and that is going to be used in video.js, for instance, in the front end to render the video player. So the format or the MIME type for an HTTP live streaming video is application/xmpeg URL. Okay, so we have specified the disks here, which means we can go back to our migration, and where we want to specify or enter the temporary disk, the default disk, we can just enter the parameter that we have in the configuration. So the default temp disk is going to be config site disks videos and temp, which is what we just entered here. So config site disks videos and temp, that is going to be the name of our temp disk. Let's also add another disk or another field for the stream disk. Okay, so that is the disk where we are going to be streaming the video from, and that will just say stream there. Then we need an entry for the temporary path. Okay, we can generate the path directly based on the disk itself, but I'll just want to store that in the video record so it's easy for me to pull that in a job. So temporary path, which is the physical path where the file is actually saved, and I'll just make that nullable. Then I want to have a stream name, okay? Because we are saving the actual file name that the user uploaded, which I just realized is not spelled correctly. We are saving the actual file name here, but when we start moving things around and loading them in different disks, we'll just be generating random names for them to store in the different disk locations. So we are going to generate stream names, which I'm going to store in the record so we can identify the original file name, which is what will display to the user in the front end. But in the back end, we know that they're actually saved using a different randomly generated name. And I'm going to call that stream name. So this is going to be stream name. And we'll also make that nullable. And the reason we're making this nullable is because initially when it's uploaded, we don't have this information until we start processing the video, okay? So you only get the stream video when you've processed it in the job. So originally, those fields will be null. Now, let's also record the processing percentage, because when the video starts processing in the job, we need to update the record to know how much of the video has been processed. And the package that we are going to implement will make it easy for us to capture the processing percentage, store it in the video record in the database, but also broadcast it to the user in the front end. So I'm going to record processing %, and that is going to be a decimal with 10 decimal places and a precision of 2, and also that will be nullable. Then let's get the duration in seconds. So the duration of the video in seconds. And that will also be 10, 2 in precision for the decimal place, and the default will be 0. Then we did specify the MIME type. So here let's put a string, and we say MIME type for the file that we upload. And we make that nullable. Table. Let's put a date time for when the video was uploaded. Uploaded at, we'll make it nullable. Another date time for when the video was processed or when it finished processing. So processing ended at, and that will make it easy for us to know how long it took to process a video. Then we want to add a status to the videos, okay? So the status can either be processing, uploaded, or finished, or failed. Because if the processing failed, we want to mark the video as failed, which means we can broadcast it to the user in the front end and ask them to re-upload the video, okay? So here we're just going to define a status, and that's going to be a string, and we'll call it status. And the default will be processing. In fact, while we're here, I'll come back to this in a moment because we want to also create an enum for the video statuses, and we're going to use the enum value here as a default. So let's quickly add the last field here and go over to create an enum for this. So let's put a text value here and say failure details. So if we're processing the video and it failed, we want to capture the information on what happened or what the error was during the processing. In fact, I'm going to make this long text because this is going to capture whatever error we got from the processing job, and we'll store that in the video record. This information will not be displayed to the user in the front end, but it's important for us as administrators, as site owners, to know what went wrong. Now, let's quickly create an enum for the video status. So PHP artisan make enum video status. And if I open that, we're going to put a couple of cases here for the video status. So the first case is processing, which will equate to processing. Case successful. Case failed. And actually, let's put a case for uploaded. And I'm going to have a couple of helper methods here. I want to pull the actual name of the of each of these statuses, which we can display in the front end. So public function get name, and that's going to return a string. And we're going to use the match function that takes this, which is the enum class. And if the value is processing, want to return. Again, this is a friendly name that we can display to users in the front end. If the value is successful, then we want to return successful. If it was failed, want to return failed. In this case, it would have been easy if I just did a UC first on this name like we've done in a previous enum, but I wanted to do this manually because in case you wanted to add more information to the name, you should have the option to do that. And if it is uploaded, then we want to return the string uploaded as the name. And the default is unknown status, okay? So if we provide a status that is not one of these, then we just return unknown status as a default. So now that we have our statuses created, we can go back to the migration and set the default status to video status uploaded, because that will be the initial status that we get when a video is first created. So it will just be marked as uploaded. And when we start processing it, we'll update the record to processing and then to successful or failed depending on the processing outcome. So that is a migration for our video. Let's look at the model. In the model, we need a bunch of fillable fields. So protected, fillable, and that will literally be all the fields that we have in our migration. So we just copied over the lecture, original file name, and all the other fields that we have in the migration. Then we want to cast a few fields here. So protected, casts. Want to cast the status to the video status that we created. We want to cast the processing ended at, which is a date field or a date time field, to a date time, which will allow us to do carbon operations on them. And we also want to do the uploaded at field to a date time. Okay. Now for the relationships, we say a video will belong to a lecture. So public function lecture return this belongs to lecture class. Now in the model, I want to add an event listener that when a video record is deleted, I want to also delete the video physically in the disk where it is created. Okay, so if we upload a video in the stream disk, let's say it's in DigitalOcean, and we delete the video record from our file system or from our database, I want to also delete the video physically from the disk. So here I'm just going to say protected static function, and that will come into the booted method. Okay, and here we can listen for deleted event, and I'm going to mark this as queuable, and queuable means that the delete operation should not be done immediately. Well, the users should not have to wait for it to happen. So we are pulling in a function here, which is use the function queuable, and this means that users should not have to wait for the delete operation to work. And this is important, especially because we are uploading files to Amazon or to DigitalOcean, to the cloud. And so it may take some time. There may be some latency with making the call to DigitalOcean to do the delete process. And so we don't want users to have to sit and wait for it. In that case, we're just going to make it queuable, and we pass a function which is a callback, and that callback takes the record that you were deleting, which is a video. And all we need to do here is look for the storage disk. So storage disk, look for the video stream disk, so the disk where we save the video for streaming, and we delete the directory where that video is saved, because we are going to be saving our videos in a subfolder that is the videos ID. So delete directory, video ID. So in the disk where the videos will be created, when we store them, we are basically going to be putting them in a subfolder like 1, and then the name of the video.mp or m3edu or u8. Yeah, so the video will be in that format. So we basically just go and delete the entire directory and its contents. Now we haven't created the disks that we mentioned here yet, which means if we try and create anything, all of this will probably fail because we haven't set the disks up. So let's quickly come back in the next lesson and set the disks up, which will include also logging into DigitalOcean and setting up a disk in their file system.